Hi, I'm Natalie Graham and welcome to another episode of Nattabox, which is the podcast where I get the chance to speak to lots of inspirational people from the world of music, entertainment, sports, business, health and well-being. And today we're going to be talking about, I say, one of my favourite subjects and when it comes to babies. Not had the opportunity to go down the route of having any just yet, but I'm hoping that it's something that's going to happen for me very soon. And what better person to tell us all about it than hypnobirthing practitioner, the fabulous Emma Saville. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you very much for having me.
No, lovely to have you on. It's been a sort of long time coming, but I am fascinated by the world that you are involved in and love babies from as far back as I can remember. Sort of 5, 6, 7 years old, if I could help to feed someone's baby or change nappies, I was always on it. And it is a fascinating world. I watch all the sort of the birthing shows and all the things that probably some people think, oh no, I can't sit there and watch that, it looks too painful. And all the things that people sort of worry about when it comes to giving birth are, I think, some of the things that I'm probably looking forward to more than anything. And when we met and you mentioned that you are a hypnobirthing practitioner, straight away my ears picked up and I was like, hypnobirthing, what is that? Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a bit about that first and foremost, and then we'll sort of go backtrack to sort of you and your story and how you got into it. What is hypnobirthing?
So hypnobirthing is a practice of recognising your fears, acknowledging your fears and letting go. So it's a lot of work with the mind so that the mind can work with the body. Mm-hmm. It dates back to the 1940s with a British obstetrician, Grantley Dick Reed, who was sent out to a lady in the slums who was giving birth. Back in those days, hospitals were only for the rich. And she refused pain relief. And he couldn't understand why. And then after she had the baby, she said, well, it wasn't meant to hurt, was it? Our bodies are made to give birth. Mm-hmm. And so he came up with this concept of fear, tension and pain. So if you put your fingers pointing downwards like that and you focus really, really very much onto your hand and your fingers and tense them and start to try to wiggle them, and you'll find it's quite uncomfortable, quite difficult. Mm. And then when we let go, so we release the hand and then we put the hand back and completely relaxed and having a look at the fingers, no tension whatsoever, and then we wiggle them now and see the difference that it makes. So when we are in fear, we tense. Yep. So our body will react to that fear. So generally we tend to tense up like this and our shoulders, and then also what happens is the stress hormone adrenaline comes in and the heart beats much faster. Mm-hmm. And the body goes into fight or flight. A little bit like when I tell my couples that like a stuntman or woman, mm-hmm. if they come out of a moving vehicle and they're all tense like this, then they'll break a bone. That's why they're taught to drop and roll. So I'm not teaching people to drop and roll. So moving on from Grantley Dick Reed, Marie Mongden, she was a hypnotherapist, mm-hmm. and she thought, wow, if we can look at our mindset and how we think about birth, how our body can change how we give birth. By changing your mindset. So with very, very careful use of words, which we do in hypnotherapy, mm-hmm. And using the two together, she developed hypnobirthing. So that's where hypnobirthing comes from. So some people may say, you need a midwife in order to do hypnobirthing, as long as you're trained in hypnobirthing. But you could debate whether a hypnotherapist is of better value than a midwife.
Right.
Although I cover the hypnobirthing and full antenatal, but then of course you have your midwife appointments, so you're with your medical caregivers. But the hypnotherapy part of it is not about being hypnotised, which a lot of people really worry about. Mm-hmm. It's about use of language, understanding the mind, the conscious, the subconscious.
And being in a more relaxed state.
Yeah, completely.
So just, I mean, because you have, as a hypnobirthing practitioner, you are accredited from the Royal College of Midwives.
Correct.
So as well as the hypnobirthing, as you said, you can do the midwifery as well?
So I'm not a midwife.
Right, okay.
No, but the training that I've have completed is with Catherine Graves.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine Graves was the first UK Hypnobirthing Association, and that training is accredited to the Royal College of Midwives. It's also the gold standard of hypnobirthing, and of which I'm also a member of the Hypnobirthing Association.
This is probably a slightly unusual question, but is this something that's recognised within hospitals and amongst midwives? Is it something that they kind of embrace? Or, because there's certain things that might come up where if it takes away from what their skill is, or is it something that they sort of recommend for people to do in conjunction with?
A lot of midwives have trained in KGH.
Right, okay.
So when a lady will say, I'm KGH, midwives are instantly, thank goodness for that, because then they will become the greatest team. You will be the best team at the birth of your baby.
Okay.
There's lots of other hypnobirthing courses that you can do, but because of being accredited to the Royal College of Midwives, the KGH is the only one that is. So midwives do that training as well. So
and what does KGH stand for?
Catherine Graves.
It is the Catherine Graves, right?
Yeah. I meet up with quite a lot of midwives, and they love hypnobirthing. They wish that more people would do it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Well, I've got loads of questions on that front, but before we continue with that, then how did your journey in this start? I mean, what's your sort of background, and what were you previously involved in? How did you sort of get into this line of work?
So I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to leave home until I had qualifications. That was one rule that my parents had.
Okay.
And my mum worked for SCABU, Special Care Baby Unit, and she was a nurse. She looked after disabled children and then has been a carer for all of her life, really. My grandmother, her mother, was a matron as well, and I wanted to be a midwife. And when I left school, I went to a college, but the teacher hardly ever turned up, and it was a bit of a waste of time, really.
Yeah.
But I wasn't allowed to leave home until I had qualifications. So then I went to my second choice, which was secretarial. So my parents sent me to a private secretarial college, and I did as many qualifications as I could in secretarial. So I loved that side of things as well.
Yeah.
And so my career was very much in the secretarial world. And then I furthered my training up until executive assistant, which was my latest role.
Right.
I had my daughter at 26. And then 3 years on, I became a single parent. Then I brought her up on my own. So my priority was bringing her up, and so I carried on with my career in the secretarial world. When she got to the last term of university, I felt a bit lost, and I felt, what's my purpose now? What's my purpose as a parent? I was in a job that I wasn't enjoying, still on my own as well, and I just felt very alone. And I thought, well, Kelly is my daughter, so her world is just opening. And lots of people say, do what you enjoy.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, come on, Emma, be brave, see what's out there. And I found a course, and it was psychodynamic counselling, 3-year course. And I thought, right, well, I can fund that privately, I can do that in my own time. So I applied, and they said that the first year will be hypnotherapy. And I thought, well, what's that got to do with counselling? And they said, well, because it's a very, very useful tool with counselling because of use of words and body language and all of this. So I thought, okay, right, that's fine. So in the first year, qualified as a hypnotherapist, but within that year, we talked about hypnobirthing, and I just thought, oh my gosh, I've gone full circle. Here's the babies again. How can I help people? So I just love helping people. And then I said to my daughter, I want to do hypnobirthing. That she said, you need to finish one course before you start another. Okay, fine, sensible.
The child becomes the parent.
I know.
As we do.
So the second year I did psychodynamic counselling, and I qualified as level 4 for that.
What's that?
So psychodynamic counselling is really very much about using the techniques from hypnotherapy, going back, understanding the mind, doing like CBT, doing mind maps, so that you can see, say there's an issue that you want to deal with, having a look to see when did that happen, how did that make you feel, and generally it goes back to childhood.
Right. Okay.
So you're having a look at the root of where you got to that fear or that worry, remembering that when we are born, we only have two fears, and one is being dropped and the other is loud noise.
Okay.
And everything else is learnt, and usually that's from someone of authority, like a parent, an older sibling, policeman, a woman, a teacher, and you're feeling that that's how they behave and that's how they're feeling, so therefore I should. When I did my hypnotherapy and I had clients then, for example, I had someone who had a fear of spiders.
I was just thinking that in terms of that's the first thing that came to my mind. I wonder if that's where my fear of spiders came from then, my dad.
So she had a fear of spiders because her mum and her older sister did. So it's interesting.
And without that, then she probably would have been just sitting there playing with little incy wincy.
Yeah. If you watch a child with an insect, I distinctly remember my mum giving Kelly a worm once. I thought,
we all played with worms as kids. It was great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mud pies, like wiggly worms. But they're really inquisitive, whereas our instinct is, oh, quick, pull them away, or that sort of thing. And so you can embed this fear. So the psychodynamic counselling, so it's looking at Freud, for example, from hypnotherapy, looking at freedom of association, so that if you're nervous of talking to somebody, the person who you want to talk to, get them to sit behind you. And the reason for that is because our face expressions, we can't help what we do with our eyebrows or our so it's giving somebody the freedom of association, giving them the freedom to speak. If they see you, you're kind of going, frowning or raising your eyebrows or smiling or grinning, they will stop.
That's going to alter their response.
It will alter what they're saying and they won't want to talk anymore. So it's all of those kind of techniques.
Is this completely separate from psychology? Or is it a sort of a sausage? Right.
Yeah. So I qualified in that, and then I had a third year of counselling. Generally with counselling, it's usually an unhappy time in someone's life, and I really, really want to help people, but I know that I will take on but I will just worry about them all of the time, and I don't think that would be very good for me. So I wanted to help people, preferably at an exciting, but where they need that support as well. And then I thought, well, birth. So I went back to hypnobirthing. And then I searched for the best hypnobirthing teacher I could find, which was Catherine Graves. And I keep in touch with her regularly. And I'm going to see her next week, actually. And she was amazing. And she was a hypnotherapist as well. And she got to the point of, what shall I do? She had 4 children, what shall I do now? And she went into hypnobirthing. She is a doula. She's on the Royal College of Midwives, the Royal Obs and Gynae. She's an amazing lady. She's lovely.
You've just mentioned the word doula, because this is only a word that I've only come across within recent months. And the first time I heard, I thought, what doula? What's a doula? But when I said, is it similar to what you do? You said that there's some sort of very big differences between the two. So because there may be some people listening thinking, well, isn't what Emma does? Isn't she basically a doula? So what's the difference between the two? What is a doula?
A doula is it's a Greek word, and it means woman servant, which I'm not very keen on.
Right.
I think, really? So a doula you can have a prenatal doula and a postnatal doula, all combined, where they do all of the support for you, so they can help you at the birth, prepare for the birth. After the birth, they'll come with you to breastfeeding clinics, for example. They'll come around at a time convenient to you. They can look after baby whilst you don't have a sleep, or they'll put a meal on, put washing out for you, really are there for the support. Whereas with what I do as hypnobirthing is helping ladies and birth partners to release the fears that they have, which then has an impact on their body and how the hormones work and enabling a more powerful. Hypnobirthing is not a pain-free birth. It's not that, well, I'm going to do hypnobirthing, so I'm not going to be in any pain at all.
Yeah.
Birth is painful, but with hypnobirthing, we're looking at, if you're on a pain threshold of 0 is no pain and 10 is extreme, we're looking at moving that down. And often by moving that down, releasing the fear and understanding the fear enables the body to work more efficiently.
Okay.
And so that's when you hear about people breathing their baby out. Baby will come out. There's no two ways about it. But it's having that control, having the confidence, being nice and calm about it, and coming down to that lower end of the threshold.
So at what stage of someone's pregnancy then do you get involved?
From 25 weeks.
Right, okay.
So the earlier you can start, the better, because there's practice. So hypnobirthing isn't just
So
about...
what's that, is that 6 months-ish?
Something, yeah. So it's not just about doing the course and then that's it. You have to do the practice. So think if you do singing or weightlifting or a sport of some sort, you don't do that one thing and then the next day you're playing for England or you're on the stage at Glastonbury and giving a performance. You need to practice. You can't just write a song and then just go, well, I suppose you could, but your performance is going to be even better the more you practice. And this is absolutely key. There is no point at all doing a hypnobirthing course unless you're prepared to do the practice. And when I say the practice, you're looking at about 10, 15 minutes a day. The main part of the practice is listening to audios at night time, because the reason for that is because it has more powerful in your brain at night time. So when we go to sleep, our brain becomes a bit like a washing machine, and we have this liquid called cerebrospinal, which washes through the brain. It can only happen when we're asleep.
Really?
So every single person who goes to sleep,
we all have
this liquid goes through the brain, washes it. Look at it like a waste management service. And it removes all of the toxins every night.
Never heard that one.
Or whenever you're asleep. It's amazing. I said you'd learn something.
Now, how does this work then? Because obviously I'm assuming that you're working with maybe not always couples, but are the techniques that you help people to learn, do they also apply, or are there also certain techniques that are required for the partner, the male? And because I'm assuming that energies, we were talking again before we started in terms of how powerful energies can be, but if the partner and the male is sort of het up and agitated, surely that can have a ripple effect on the woman who's obviously planning to give birth. So do you have things that have to work for both parties?
So the birth partner, male or female, is extremely vital.
Right.
And hypnobirthing, I've lost count really, the amount of birth partners that have said, I now feel included. Because they really, really want to help and to do something for their partner. And they know they can't give birth. And men in particular, no offence, are not very good at giving birth. But they're good at lots of other things. So I often use the analogy that men are fixers, whereas women, we have a very strong intuition. So, for example, if a shelf comes off the wall, the man will be in there with his hammer in his hand. Right, let's get this shelf back up. Let's get it fixed. The woman might want to say, I knew we shouldn't have put that extra jar on there, and that book as well has made it. Now we're going to need to replaster, we're going to need to repaint. Men don't want to hear the hows, whys, ifs, buts. They just want to fix. So with hypnobirthing, they are very, very much vital. So I teach them how to read the scripts. There's a certain technique in how to read them. And if they can't be with their partner all the time, they could record them so that baby can hear them on a speaker as well, and so can mum. Learning about what their role is as a birth partner in terms of making sure of the surges and the waves, the counting of that.
Surges and waves of what?
Surges and waves of
the
so
contractions.
rather the contractions, so we use the word surges and waves.
Right.
Because it's more
again the language.
gentle, because contraction is a bit contraction.
Yeah.
But I combine half, so it's a bit
Yeah.
rough. Making sure that that they know the route, and that they've tried the route to the hospital if they're going to hospital, and they have a route A and a route B. Making sure that they have money for the car park, making sure that the birth bag, the hospital bag is packed, but not only for mum, because she'll probably want to do that. Well, he needs to take responsibility for his bag as well. But you think, well, why do I need a bag?
Yeah.
Well, he may need a change of clothes. He'll definitely need snacks. He'll need to make sure that things like aromatherapy oils or lights or pictures or audios, that's all packed. He has a lot to do. I've got quite a list that he needs to do, or she, needs to do. The breathing as well, so they practice the breathing together. We also talk about anchoring. So anchoring is used in hypnotherapy. So particularly with the rewind technique, if you're using it for hypnotherapy, where you are going over something that's happened, and then you, it's quite often your finger and your thumb that you will push together when you're at your happiest time, or when depends what the hypnotherapist is saying. It's either at your happiest time, or it's at that time when it's been happening. If it's a happy time, if you're in that situation again, because of the hypnotherapy that you've had, you can do it. You can say, if you're in a shop or something, put the finger and thumb together, and then that anchor then triggers the brain to say you're okay,
into that state.
You're safe, you're fine. So with hypnobirthing, one of the anchors that we do is stroking. So we do the stroking whilst listening to the audio, because sometimes when mum is in labour, conversation doesn't want to talk, and actually minimal talking is best.
Right.
So if he's gently doing this, he doesn't have to say anything, but that anchor will remind her that everything's fine, everything's okay, everything's calm, I'm here, this is just nice and gentle. But saying that, there are some ladies that go, I don't like to be touched. I think, how can you not? But, you know... This
is how you ended up like this in the first place. A bit late now, love.
I'm sort of thinking, I can't say anything. But, you know, there's lots of things, yeah.
So, because again, things like one born every minute, you're not seeing these kind of things on there. Sometimes you do. But otherwise, it's a case of, you know, you did this to me. Yes. Get out.
Don't you touch me.
Exactly. Go and get yourself a coffee. Go to the vending machine. Just do something. Be anywhere but here. Now, because I mean, is this all completely separate to things like antenatal classes then? Or is that something that sort of, is it combined with the two?
Yes, combined. So the first part, so I do 4 sessions. So it's about 12 hours altogether, so 3 hours each session. The first part's the logic. So what is hypnobirthing? Where did it come from? What's hypnotherapy? We look at the careful use of words. I was talking earlier as an example that if we say negative words, like if I say to you, don't forget the milk, it's a double negative.
Yeah.
And the mind, the don't
and the forget.
And the mind doesn't like negative words. A negative word is don't. The mind will latch on to an instruction, forget the milk. So therefore, you'll forget the milk.
So what is it then, like a can you pick up some milk?
Remember the milk.
Okay.
It's quite interesting. I try it out on lots of people, and I used to try it out on my boss. He doesn't know that I did that now.
Did it work?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So it's use of words. So session 1 is very much about that.
Yeah.
And then how the muscles of the uterus works, because that's what people want to know, is how is baby going to come out. So I cover how the muscles work. Session 2, we then look at the techniques, which is what people think hypnobirthing is all about. The breathing, the scripts, the relaxations, all of that side of things. And then the 3rd session is before the birth, and then the 4th session is at the birth.
Are you present with the both?
I don't. I
Okay.
haven't, but I'd be happy to if someone said, "Would you be there?" Absolutely, of course I would. Yeah,
Wouldn't even
if that's
phase
what
you.
they need.
Yeah.
No, not at all. No. So it's quite interesting with the muscles of the uterus. So explaining about that, how we have our body works in pairs. So we have a bicep and a tricep. So
Yeah.
how we pull up and we pull down. And the muscles of the uterus are the same. So we have muscles that go all the way around, but like a being in a slinky.
Right.
And then we have longitude muscles that pull up. So the longitude muscles pull these muscles up to the top, so bunched, and then the muscles are coming down. So it's like a force that's coming down. So I teach the different breathing techniques so you can feel the difference in the breathing.
Right.
It's a bit like almost like a coffee plunger.
Right.
So as
Yep.
baby's coming down. But remember that our uterus is roughly about 7 centimetres. And you don't need a uterus to be alive.
Right, so hold on. The uterus is 7 centimetres, so we're talking in
Good news for
length.
In width. But then the uterus...
This is not the cervix now, this is the uterus
this is
itself
the uterus
that the
where
baby grows in. Is 7
Yeah,
centimetres.
but then obviously it grows.
It doesn't look like that on Google. It looks like it's it looks like it's 7 centimetres.
Yeah, but it grows with baby. So when you've given...
7
I know, I
centimetres.
should have brought a ruler.
Do you know what? Do me a favour. In that cupboard there, the black cupboard. No, because I need to get my head around this properly. There should be a measuring tape. Second shelf down.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liam.
Thank you.
My beautiful assistant. 7 centimetres.
Yeah.
7 cent. Oh, and it's wonky. Oh, that's 8 centimetres. 7. That's the size of the uterus. I don't know
Roughly
which
between
camera
5,
can see this now.
About 7 centimetres.
That's 7 centimetres.
But if you put that against your tummy...
in my uterus, that's the size of my uterus.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then it...
How am I this age? And I'm only literally. They do not teach you. They don't tell you the dynamics and the
No.
dimensions of these things in your biology lessons at school.
But then
dear Lord.
that will grow.
I might take everything back that I've said.
So, and it's a fight or flight mode. Where is your oxygen going to go to keep you alive? Which organs would it go to?
Or your lungs,
Mhm.
heart,
Mhm.
mind. Thank you. Thanks, Liam. Just in my peripheral. I was
Your
thinking,
brain.
right, my brain. I clearly need some more oxygen right now. You just sent me into a frenzy about that.
Yeah.
I'm still on the conversation floor. Would those not be the key?
Yeah, they are key. Your uterus isn't key. You don't need a uterus to keep you alive.
Hence hysterectomies and the likes of. So
Yeah, exactly. So, so all of the oxygen, or part of the oxygen, of course, will go to all of the organs to keep you alive. And so if there's no or sufficient oxygen going to the uterus when you're giving birth, that's where the pain comes in. Think of it like WD-40. You haven't got enough, so your muscles are working together to pull up to the top and then to pull, they're working in pairs, like we do with the bicep and the tricep. Your muscles can't work efficiently if you don't have enough oxygen coming to this area, coming to your uterus. Because if you're stressed, your body wants to keep you alive.
Yeah.
So it will go to your essential organs. So to overcome that, that's where the breathing techniques come in, and keeping calm and enabling the body to rest, which enables the oxygen to come to the uterus, which enables more of a calm and efficient birth. So if you breathe like really quickly, go, and then you can feel your heart get faster and faster.
So it's kind of going into hyperventilating mode. Yeah.
Because you're like stressed and you're wanting to run away. Whereas if you're doing the breathing and you're breathing in through the nose, go, and out through the mouth.
I do this. There's what was I reading about the other day? Is it the 4-7-8 technique?
Can do it.
Breathe in for 4. This was saying when you're sort of settling down to go to bed, you know, obviously down tools, your phones, this, that, and the other. The 4, 7, 8 is sort of 4 deep breaths in. I think it's hold for 7 and then out for 8.
Yeah.
And then that can help them whilst you're sort of lying there at night to just slow
relax.
Everything down. So is it kind of
very
similar?
similar to that. Some people do like to have a count.
Yeah.
And other people don't, because sometimes by having a count it can cause more stress because they're thinking more of the count rather than the breath, because they're thinking, oh, I haven't held my breath for that long, and I'm trying to breathe out and I can't get to 8 because I'm out of breath already. So rather than being stressed by having an actual count, the same technique, but do it in your own way.
Right.
You know your body more than anybody, and at that point you know your baby more than anybody. So do it in your own count and relax, which then produces more oxygen to the uterus, which makes birth more efficient.
So can this then impact the labour time? In terms of, because sometimes you hear, had an easy labour, went in, I was in and out within, a few hours, and then you've got some that might be in labour for sort of 12 hours plus, and all you hear is you just instantly think 12 hours of excruciating pain. Yeah. So if people are able to apply these kind of techniques, can that, I'm not saying, well, I suppose I am kind of saying, can it help to speed up the process of labour because of how the impact that it's having on those muscles you've just mentioned?
People like a good story to tell. So they will say, I was in excruciating pain for 12 hours.
Right.
Labour isn't, for that long. The actual labour part of it everybody's different. I couldn't put a time on how long labour would be. But all of these techniques certainly makes birth more efficient and calmer and more empowering. But, my waters broke at 4 o'clock in the morning and Kelly was born at 12 minutes past 5 at night. I could say I was in labour for that. I wasn't in labour for that long.
Right.
My waters broke. I transferred, because I was staying somewhere else, so I transferred back to my flat and I waited there, stood in the shower for God knows how long, before I went to hospital. Got to hospital about 9 o'clock. I had a little nap in between. And then Kelly was born later on. But I wasn't in labour for all of that.
So labour isn't actually from once the waters break?
No.
That's what I always thought it was.
No. So birth is starting, but actual labour, so for example, if you're having, sometimes ladies are recommended to, get into some like going into the water. I loved being in the shower because water was just still healing. So you can go into the birth pool, for example, and you can get to that stage, but actually giving birth, so you can labour in the water, but then giving birth, step out of the pool. So
you're not supposed to give birth in the water?
You can, but it just depends on
See, I've always wanted a water
individual
birth. That's
depending on a lady's situation.
Yeah.
But it may be that she finds it more comfortable to be in the water.
Yeah.
To going through all of that, and then when birth is about to happen, some prefer to step out of the water. Then some prefer to stay in the water. It depends. I think everyone's different.
Are you a fan of water births? Is that something that you
I
recommend?
wish that I had one.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because it just looks so glorious. It just looks so lovely. A misconception is that if I have my baby in the water, then baby's going to drown.
Well, but they're in fluid anyway.
So 1, they're in fluid, and 2, they're still attached to the umbilical cord.
And that's what they're getting the oxygen supply from.
So I say to couples, think at the moment, whilst baby's in your tummy, think of baby as an astronaut or as a deep sea diver, because they have the cord. So if you're an astronaut, that's your oxygen. Same as if you're deep sea diving, that's your oxygen. So when baby's first born and baby comes in and takes that first breath, until the cord is cut, then they've got a dual way of breathing, which is quite amazing, really. But yeah, so no, I wouldn't worry about baby being. In fact, you'll see some things on different social medias and also or on films, or one born every minute, all sorts of things. you'll see baby being in the water for a while, and some people would, there's the baby out, well, the baby's absolutely quite happy, just like calm.
This is a nice relaxing environment to enter the world into.
It's just like nice and calm and just quite relaxed. Yeah, I think from what I've seen and heard, that they do sound just lovely. Yeah, just lovely. Not saying that other births aren't, but just with the water, I personally love water. I find water to be very healing.
Yeah,
and relaxing. Yeah.
That's again my typical Cancerian self. It's just
it's just
drawn
lovely,
to it,
isn't it? Yeah.
So how do people find you? Because like I said, I'd never heard of hypnobirthing until we met, and I'd have probably been none the wiser had I not obviously come into contact with yourself. So how do people hear about someone like you and think, right, do you know what? I want to get Emma involved in this. I think I need that support throughout my pregnancy.
So generally with midwives and doctor appointments, they're not allowed to suggest somebody specifically.
Right.
But they can suggest, think about doing hypnobirthing, in which case generally people then Google hypnobirthing in my area. So I think I'm the first or the second. If you put in hypnobirthing Oxford, then I'll pop up. So I'm Ellivase Hypnobirthing.
Yeah.
And the word Ellivase is a little play on words. It's basically Saville backwards, because I wanted to have ownership of what I do.
Yeah.
So it's Ellivase.
Didn't even clock that.
Yeah.
Very clever. Yeah, like it.
Ellivase Hypnobirthing, and then I provide face-to-face and online courses. Some people come for the full 12 hours, and other people want to have I have couples who have had babies before, so the antenatal part of it they're happy with, but they want to understand the hypnobirthing part. I actually had a midwife a week ago saying, please can I book in with you to do the hypnobirthing part of it, because I've had experience as a midwife for 12 years, but I really want to understand. I'm now having my baby, and I want to understand the mindset.
Oh, this was for her own pregnancy.
This is for her own
pregnancy.
Okay. Which I think is quite an honour for a midwife to ask me, to go through that. And I've taught paramedics and children nurses and things like that, and I sort of feel, but oh my gosh, your knowledge is just like off the scale. But we've had great conversations, and they've really enjoyed the course and they've always said, how much they've learned, which is great.
And do you have people that have had children before, had their first child, but not necessarily gone down the hypnobirthing route, and then thought, I'm for this next child, I want to try this? Or what kind of a ratio is there for sort of new parents to been there, seen it, done it, but want you to hold my hand?
Most are first time parents, but more recently I've had people who are on their third or fourth baby that they want to go down the hypnobirthing, and lots of people have said, I wish that I had done that.
Why do you think that they've decided to do it after a sort of 2 or 3 children?
Maybe because of their experiences that they've had. Hypnobirthing is becoming more and more popular.
I was going to say, is that something that you think's got something to do with it, that maybe it wasn't necessarily, not necessarily as available, but it wasn't something that was as prominent within the marketplace, let's say, as what it is now?
Yeah, I think so. And I think people weren't really educated on what it is. And a lot of people worry that because it's got hypno in the front, I'm going to be hypnotised. Yeah. And they don't want to be. So they have this fear, but it's not being hypnotised at all. It's using techniques from that. Because Marie, who did the created hypnobirthing, she was a hypnotherapist. So it's really working on those techniques. She had 4 children, and her first child back, it was 1950s, she was told she wasn't allowed her husband in the room. She was strapped down to the table on her back.
Literally strapped down.
Yeah, and chloroform over her face, and she was told that's how you give birth. And so she developed hypnobirthing from a horrendous experience.
And this was what years you said, back in the 1950s?
Yeah. So she developed this. Thank you.
haven't even had one yet, but yeah, thank you.
But it's taken time. I think that more celebrities are doing hypnobirthing, but to me,
is that helping to make it more trendy in that sense?
It's good. For me personally, it's good in a way if it is, but I think you should do something because of the investment of understanding what it is and what's right for you, as opposed to, I am a little bit against if a celebrity is wearing a coat, therefore I'm going to wear that coat because it looks good on him or her, therefore I want to be in there. Do you know what I mean? And I think hypnobirthing, you're only pregnant once with that baby. You may be pregnant again. Your experience with that pregnancy will only happen once. And I think that more people are probably thinking that I wish that I had understood it more. Lots of conversations that people have with their friends and family, and then they're listening and thinking, oh, I wish that I'd felt like that, or I wish I hadn't felt like that, and I could have overcome that if I'd spent a bit more time. Yeah.
I mean, you've just, this isn't even something that I had in mind originally to ask you, but it's just as you mentioned in terms of celebrity. I mean, I've always said that as and when, again, God willing, that I get the chance to have a child or children, that I would love to obviously go down the natural route. You don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, there might be certain things that mean that you have to have cesareans or whatever occurs. But I don't understand that there seems to be some kind of a trend that within the world of celebrity, they're like, right, I want to book myself in at this time on this day. Because I'm thinking you're kind of interfering with nature to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against cesareans at all.
Yeah.
If that's right for you and if that's right for the baby. And sometimes, and we never know what's going to happen in labour until the day. And sometimes everything's all fantastic and all going fine, but maybe mum's too tired, or maybe there's more meconium that baby has released. And so there's where baby has pooped in the tummy, and so there's a risk of baby swallowing it, and then there's a risk of going onto the lungs.
Wow.
So, but sometimes babies can still do that, and they can still be born naturally. But you are in very, very good hands. The medical teams are fantastic. But remember that with cesarean, your recovery takes a lot longer because you've got lots of layers of cutting through to get baby out. But with hypnobirthing, we also talk about a gentle cesarean. So a gentle cesarean is so that you can still make the room your own, so that the lights at the head end can be dimmed. You can still have your audios playing. You can still have aromatherapy. You can have twinkly lights. You have the option whether to have the screen up or down. You can have baby walking out. So not literally.
I didn't even want to look at you because I could just picture what his face is around there.
Not literally, but there's more of this kind of motion of baby coming out and put onto mummy's chest. You've got the breast crawl, so the gown is on back. So there's lots of things that we can make to enable cesarean a lot more gentle. Some people want to have an elective cesarean because maybe their partner's in the forces and they want to meet the baby before. So that makes sense. And some is there was a lady that I had that was very worried about having an induction or a possible induction, and she didn't want to go down that route at all.
What's an induction?
So induction where they will get labour started.
Right, okay.
And
they're induced.
Inducing, yeah. So she was booked in for a C-section, but actually she went into spontaneous labour before the date of the C-section. But then there's other things to consider as well, is like when baby is born vaginally, baby will go through the birth canal, which will then cover baby in the microbiome. Whereas if baby's born by cesarean, then baby won't have that microbiome. So the microbiome
is that good for them?
Is very good for them because it enables the start of the their
immune system. Right.
Yeah. So there's ways how that can be prepared for. So mum can start harvesting her microbiome if she was having elective cesarean, and that's literally having a small towel or a flannel and rubbing over her skin, not washing that, and then putting that into the hospital bag, so that when baby's born, it's that towel or flannel that goes directly onto baby. So you're transferring mummy's bacteria onto baby, because baby hasn't been able to
doing the same thing
through. Yeah. So it's not as great, because obviously you're sweeping through as opposed to putting on. But there's lots of things that you can think of with a cesarean, but everyone's different whether they want vaginally or cesarean.
See, because I always thought that when someone has a cesarean, it's because there's just something that's happened in the process where it's like, okay, can't go down the natural route now, so therefore we're going to have the cesarean option. So I didn't even, again, I've just learned so much from what you've just explained and the reasons why people might go for that. But like I said, maybe it's just the sort of the celebrity thing where it's, again, that kind of the fashionable side, and that's what always sort of makes me think, is that going to be healthy? But yeah, you've
each to their own, really. But I the main thing is to be educated and understand what's the benefits of having a cesarean and what's the risks, and what's the benefits and risks of not having it.
Yeah.
There is a place in Summertown in Tennessee, which is owned by Ina May Gaskin. She was a midwife, and that was opened in 1971 with her husband, and it's called The Farm, and it has the lowest rate of cesareans in the world. It's not a farm like, it's not like a cult where you all get pregnant and you stay there until you have baby. It's a place where you can come and, be nice and relaxed, a bit like, mammals. Mammals give birth in privacy, and, you won't go onto a farm or something like that, and a sheep, or they'll go and find
Tuck
their
themselves
own
away
little,
somewhere.
yeah, exactly. So it's very much built on that premise, where ladies and couples can be relaxed and enjoy the experience, rather than bright lights and conversation and being told what to do and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
What about twins? Have you ever dealt with anyone who's having twins or triplets?
Not yet, but that'd be exciting.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I've got a few of my friends that said, Natalie, I don't know what it is, but I've got a feeling when you have kids, you're going to have twins. Because my mum's dad was a twin.
Okay.
And I know in my dad's side of the family that there's twins that run there as well. So my mum's just like, yes, Natalie, one time I'm done.
Yes. I love that.
I'm like, yes, thanks, Mum. I'll do my best then. I'll put it in the diary. But so, I mean, again, I'm assuming it would be all the same techniques.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Extra breathing. I mean, it may be that, when it comes to baby being born, and you have skin on skin, so you have that golden hour. So one baby will go on mum and one will go on dad.
Yeah.
So dad needs to Superman it and get his chest out.
Get that chest out. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Right, I'll just put that out to the universe then. If I do end up getting pregnant with twins, there you go. That'll be your first and mine.
I'll be there.
I'm going to hold you to that.
I love that.
What about epidurals then? With your techniques, is that something that should mean that people won't necessarily require an epidural? Because when I was, like I said, I was fascinated by pregnancies, and every time someone was, even now I'm like, can I feel the belly? But I was just, you hear things in terms of, oh no, you shouldn't have an epidural because of whatever kind of, risks might come with that. Then you've got the others that, again, you see it on the TV, they're like, just give me the epidural. Yeah. So are you, I say, a fan of it, or is it something that with what you're able to assist these people with the power of the mind and that relaxation, that they shouldn't feel the need to require that?
So we're looking at moving the pain threshold down to the lower end.
Right.
But it's not discounting that pain relief shouldn't be used. What we focus on is what is right for you.
Right.
And what are your choices. So with the course that I go through all the different types of pain relief that is available. So we've got gas and air, or epidural, for example, or a TENS machine. So there's lots of different ways. I mean,
What's a TENS machine?
A TENS machine. So it's it's a machine that goes onto the lower part of the back that gives
Right.
little pulses.
Okay, yeah.
And sometimes they're effective and sometimes they're not. So
Mhm.
it down to individual really if you want to do that side of things. But certainly in terms of pain relief is not off the table.
Yeah.
But have a look at what options there are for pain relief.
Mhm.
Understand the benefits and risks of all of them.
Yeah.
Because some of them might go across, will go across the placenta, and so it will may affect baby as well. So it's understanding, it's being educated, knowing your choices, putting that on your birth proposal. Right, if it comes to it, this is my preference.
Yeah.
With an epidural. So I had an epidural for Kelly, but I had one where I could still feel giving
Yeah.
birth, because I wanted to have that feeling of
And the
her
sensation.
being delivered. Because if you have two...
How can you push though if you can't feel? Like you said, if it's muscles, how can you?
So
How do you push if you can't feel what's happening down? Did you know what I mean?
So you have, so you're strapped up, and so the midwife can have a look on the graph when your contractions or your surges are coming, and she can guide you to say, right, we've got one coming, are you ready? And then you can do that motion. So I was actually on my side with an epidural, so my left leg, someone had my foot. I was like bearing down, but that was my most comfortable position. But yeah, I could feel her being born. So, and then afterwards, and then once the placenta's gone and everything else, and they said about getting up, be careful. I go, well, why do I need to be careful? I just wasn't educated enough, and of course,
because
you the sensation of your legs, and you could be like jelly. But I was like, my epidural wasn't at that level where I couldn't stand up. So so the important and the takeaway from that is that you need to understand what your options are, the benefits and risks of them, and what would suit you best. It's your body, and it's your baby. But hypnobirthing isn't about no drugs, no pain relief, no pain.
It's no one size fits all.
It's all about the control of it and the confidence and understanding. And this is what I mean, that if you've done the hypnobirthing, when it comes to it and the midwife's in the room with you and talking to you about pain relief, for example, and you know what your options are and you know what your preferences are, your birth partner then advocates, because we're trying to keep your conversation at a minimal. Mm-hmm. And the midwives think, oh God, this is amazing. I don't have to explain all of this. We can get on with it and we can help and do that, which makes you a real dream team, rather than having to have that time, well, this is what's going to happen.
Right.
In the meantime, you're doing your breathing, and then you might be thinking, why are we waiting? I know what I want. And so the midwife is fantastic, right? To know where we are here. Yeah.
When my when my mum gave birth to my brother, because there's 11 and a half years between us, and I remember we'd come back from one of our sort of family friends' houses and had not long gone to bed. And then they came back in and said, right, come on, we've got to go to the hospital. And then my dad was on the phone and he said, my water's wife's have broke. He was just in this sort of semi-panic. They had the bag ready and everything. Mum was there and obviously had to get rid of the bean bag. But after she'd actually given birth, one of the nurses came in, and while she was still there, with the stirrups and everything all dishevelled, and turned around and said, oh, can I have your autograph, please, Jackie? I swear to God. And my dad just stood there and she just literally popped out a mini turkey. And then Dad was just like, I tell you, can she just like get herself together?
Yeah.
He said, give her a little bit and just come in before you finish. She put stirrups. She was just there laying up. Jackie, before I get off my shift, can I just get your autograph, please? He was just like, wow. So yeah,
shocking.
I know.
Oh my God,
you'd appreciate that.
So
I just couldn't believe it. I said, you have got to be joking. And Mum she said, yep. She said, yes, she did. I mean, my mum, both of them, Liam knows, because obviously Mom's been on one of the episodes, and nicest people in the world. But I mean, there's it's like there's a time and a place.
There is.
Pick your moment. So yes, it just reminded me. As you were just saying, well, you didn't know who had your foot, but it just made me.
No, I didn't. It's funny. I remember my midwife Lorraine, and I've never seen her again since then. But I don't remember who had my foot.
No.
Well, some lucky soul.
The Apprentice.
What a view! Good Lord. I've got some questions that I always like to ask my guests, but before I do that as well, on a sort of more personal note, because I'm in my early 40s now, depending on when people are watching or listening to this, I'll either be 42 or 43. That's something that's always been a concern of mine. So do you have people, or do you find that you have to have that extra bit of support for older parents, especially if it is their first time sort of being introduced to parenthood?
I don't think it matters what age you are,
No.
to be honest, because my mission is to support all women. So let me think now. 38, 39 was my last but one couple. But I think that, as long as you keep fit and active and you look after, so you're nurturing yourself and nurturing your body, and the key thing is to being educated, to know what your body's doing, the different hormones that will come into play during pregnancy and at the birth. The chaps are always quite worried when I say to them that, when your wife or your partner is in labour, your testosterone will drop and their faces
Really?
go, "Ooh," and their prolactin will increase. So their prolactin hormone is a protective hormone. So it will increase because obviously you're protecting the woman you love. It does come back to normal. It does then settle down, and they're like this.
How long does that take then?
So during the duration of the birth, so you're wanting to protect.
So we're not talking like a week or anything?
Oh no. It will all settle down. Once baby, and you're in that nice baby bubble. But for whilst your partner is in birth, in labour, then their prolactin will increase because they want to protect you. But going back to about the ages, and personally, I think that as long as you look after yourself, and then look after throughout your pregnancy, I don't think age is to me, age is just a number.
Yeah.
Obviously there's different things that happen with us. As we get older, we have menopause and. Which, thank you, I've had that and all
Been and
that
gone?
sort of, so...
My mum's been going through it for years.
Oh, well, touch wood, but I put a lot of it down to lifting weight, like doing low bearing weights, because that stopped all of the hot flushes.
Really?
And then when we were in lockdown and I couldn't use the gym, so I couldn't use the weights, they came back. So
exercise can have a...
well, it did
for you
me.
personally.
I just read up on it when I thought, well, what else do you do in lockdown but read up on what's going to happen to me?
Because I mentioned before, Liam's a personal trainer. So have you come across that before, or is that something? Or again, is there going to be certain things you're taking away from this, thinking, right, okay, I've got a whole new demographic of clients I can get out there and target now, thanks to Emma.
I've had a few, but I've always passed them over because I haven't felt comfortable dealing with that sort of side.
Okay.
My style's a little bit more sort of just get on and do it. But yeah, I've had a few that I've had the opportunity of working with, but I've kind of diverted it to other female PTs because I feel like they might be more sympathetic and knowledgeable about it. They might be more. It's similar with menstrual cycle. So when women are going through periods, etc., you've also got to keep that in mind with their training regime and stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes if they've got someone who heavily menstruates and their emotions are all up and down, that's where it's much better for female because they know and understand.
The empathy.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, that's fair enough.
Not myself, no. But I'm taking a lot of notes.
Yeah. There's not enough PTs that are knowledgeable on the menopause. I think you could be that could be your niche, Liam.
Because the middle-aged women are the ones that are most susceptible to PT as well.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
You can thank Emma later.
I'll give you the £5.
Okay.
Right. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, How do you define happiness, and how has that evolved over the years?
Oh gosh. Personally, how do I define happiness? Golly, that's a hard question, isn't it?
We've had all sorts of answers, so there's no right or wrongs, but it's just a case of for people who are listening, because again, in terms of all the guests from all different kinds of backgrounds, and whether it's businesses that are involved in, but everyone has sort of a different trigger, and it's just been nice to hear, because there might be some people at home that sit there and think, when it comes to how they measure happiness, I thought, I've never looked at happiness that way before. And like I said, so far every single answer has always been completely different. There's never been two the same. So I just wondered what your definition is.
And is happiness something that happens there and then, or is it? So happiness is often it's a combination of things, isn't it? So if you have a thought of a good night out and you're happy, you're happy. If you have a thought of being on holiday and you're happy, you have that happiness. I didn't really understand about find your tribe.
Okay, yeah.
And certainly within my last job, I just wasn't happy at my job. The environment was really quite damaging.
Yeah.
And then I was with a group of ladies, and I could really be myself. And I'd never met these ladies before, and even actually when we met as well, and it was just being really supportive.
Yeah.
And then I think that when you know you can be yourself, that's when I'm my most happy. When I was in my last job, and I felt that I couldn't really talk, or I couldn't say what I felt, or
you had to be filtered.
I did. I was quietened, and I am. If you ask anyone who's known me for a long time, she's the girl guide that will swing around a tent and dance around a fire pit and all this sort of thing. And I love it when people are happy.
Yeah.
When I can be myself, I would say it's my happiest.
So authenticity. Yeah, that's a big one for me. Which brings me on to, what would you consider the key contributing factors then to happiness? Whether it's relationship, money, success. Again, there's been none of those have been any of the answers to anyone that's come on so far. In terms of what do you think helps to contribute, or is that like a combo of what you've just said with the authenticity?
A lot of people say money makes you happy, don't they? Yeah. I think money gives you choices. But doesn't necessarily make you happy. You could be, paid in a job that is like I was, which is really quite sad. Whereas, I'm determined to make hypnobirthing a success because it makes a difference to many people's lives.
Right.
And it's something that I just have a true passion for. I don't know if it's come from hereditary with my mum and my grandmother, if it's, within my heart that I really want to help people, and new life is very exciting, but I think that contributing to that happiness is I think the people who you're with, but recognizing yourself and remembering your self-worth and your value, and that's something that I've said to my daughter a few times, and when she was growing up, and different boys she might have gone out with, or groups of people, and I just had to remember your self-worth.
That's another good one. Haven't had that one yet. When facing challenging times, how do you overcome adversity, and how has that changed or shaped your perspective on life?
I think challenging times are lessons. I think challenging times you can really discover where your strengths are, and also learn how to perhaps make your weakest points stronger. We can't be strong all of the time. I usually speak to my dad, but he's always taught me what's the worst that can happen. So in my most challenging times, I think, right, what's the worst that can happen here? And And when you put that down into perspective, then you can become stronger, or you can certainly make it more logical, which is kind of a bit like hypnobirthing, really. So if you have a fear, what is your fear? Write it down, walk away, come back. What's the worst that can happen? Write down, what's the worst can happen? Walk away, come back. Now, what would you do if that happened? And then generally you can find the logic. So it's not just with hypnobirthing, but that can be done in all different parts of your life, of when you really come up with those challenges. What would you do if that worst thing that you said could happen, happened?
Yeah.
And when you look at it and you think, right, well, I'd call my dad, or I would do whatever, puts it down to logic. Right now I'm prepared, bring it on. Makes you stronger.
Like it. And how important do you consider maintaining your well-being and overall self-care to be?
Hugely, because I don't think it has just an impact on myself, but also on my daughter, and maybe also on my family. I think it's important that she sees that I'm a human being as well.
Yeah.
I've always thought that, even from when she's small. I've never been worried about crying in front of her. But helping her understand, even when it came to a point of when she was able to go to brownies, so then I would go to the gym and then I would explain to her that mummy needs to have this time and then this is your time, and then we do stuff together. Or it may be that I would say to her, well, you need to go to Michelle because I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to see some friends, so that she understands, and then you're going to a party later, so that she understands that I'm a human being as well. But also I think that I recognised at my last job that my well-being wasn't good, and it was going downhill. But I also recognised that I'm a parent as well. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure that when I left, that we were both in a good place. So that I had the care for her, but also recognised what I needed. And what I needed to do was leave, which was what I've done.
I think that's really beautiful as well, the fact that you've just, as well as saying the importance of your self-care and well-being, the significance of educating your daughter about the importance of that from such a young age, because I think there's probably a lot of people who don't do that, and by which time, by the time we get to a certain age as the children, it's harder to, I don't know, implement certain techniques or ways of life, but for you to instill it from the time that you have, I think is really key for anyone, and a lot more people should do that. So I think there's going to be a few people thinking, actually, maybe we should sit down and talk to the kids about X, Y, and Z. So no, good one. And I've got my final question as well, but before I come to that, you've got a very big bag of tricks.
Oh, I do.
You're sat here looking at me, and I didn't want you to sit there and think, I didn't want to get to the end of this and not have touched upon this, because there's a couple of publications that you've obviously been published in recently, or one that's been published in, or by the time this comes out, probably both be out. And then you mentioned you've got something that's like a little gadget.
Oh, I do. Yes.
So what's going? Because like I said, when you walked in, I love the fact when she buzzed on the door and said hello. She said, "This is your midwife calling." I was like, "Oh, I genuinely can't wait to hear the day that someone says that to me." So that just made me feel gooey first before. Like genuinely, it made me feel away in a nice way. Yeah. But then when I saw the bag, I'm like, "Is this the level of homework that," and I don't mean to scare anyone who's pregnant at the minute, who's thinking, "Oh my gosh, I haven't even started reading any of the books yet." Yeah. Is this what we have to prepare ourselves with?
So, right. So, in this big bag,
so like a Mary Poppins bag of pregnancy tricks.
So I have different books. So KGH book, and I have books like the AIMS books. This is the Association for Improving Midwife Services. So I have different quotes when we talk different parts. This is about induction of labour, for example. And then I have...
Is that what helps with some of the scripts?
Yeah, so, and then I have books in here of different scripts, and then the importance of different parts of the sessions that we go along. So vitamin K, for example, quotes about cesareans, things about, let's have a look, what to do in your own, how to do it in your own time, and different quotes and different, depending on, because every couple's different. So I really hone in and listen, and then think, right, well, I focus more on that. So next week I'm going to do, so I'll do some research, further research, and then I come back. And then the beauty that, because I have lots of midwives who I meet up with, so I am asking questions, but without names or anything else like that. So hypothetically, if this happened, what would you know? So although they're not giving advice, they could, really gift me with their expertise and their experience, which means that I can then come back and say, if there's anything specific, because sometimes they can't get through and they need to have an answer or some kind of guidance, then I can signpost them to various things, which is great. So, and then these two folders are basically, so I have a presentation that I do, but I never do death by PowerPoint, but it's just as a guide. And then the publication, so Juno magazine, so I have a lovely review from Laurel and Anna, who I helped with a hypnobirthing course last October. So there's a lovely review in there, and then on the 1st of June edition, I've written a large article starting off with, do you believe in unicorns?
Right, okay. It was National Unicorn Day as well the other day, believe it or not. When I was on air, I had to, I actually had to...
How could you not know?
But you know what? You know, I mean, all the stuff I'm into, but it was, even I was like, this is, to all my listeners, like, this is a new one, this is even a new one of me. It was National Unicorn Day, believe it or not, so yes.
Yeah, so it starts off with that, and for the purpose of the power of the imagination, because we know unicorns don't exist. You do know that, yeah?
I do, but I don't think the woman that I had to interview on the day did. So, no, and we're moving swiftly on. I still want to get some shifts from that lot, but yeah.
It's amazing. But so I've written a piece on the different pathways of birth. So the neurophysiological, so the mind, the logic, and the limbic system of the mind, and then the biological part, so all of the hormones, and then the birthing part. So those three pathways, how they come in and can lead to a calm and efficient birth. So that will be coming out in 1st June. I think you'll love it, Liam. Actually, I just do. And then the little gadget that I have is my velvet vagina.
Oh my good God. No wonder why she said, I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I'm going to steal that.
I thought you might like to see her. I don't have a name for her. I think, so I bring this out, because it's quite lovely, isn't it? So, and I explain to the couples, this is particularly...
Let them see on the camera. For those of you who are listening audio-wise now, sorry that you're going to have to go and,
Beautiful. Isn't she gorgeous? And when we talk about possible... People don't want to tear when they give birth. So I have this little demonstration that I do, and then I say, right, well, let's have a look. So the vagina is not one piece of skin. So...
Right, yeah.
It is, think of it like the fjords of Norway.
Yeah.
There's lots of folds.
Right, Dad, I'm so sorry. Dad's just switched off at this point.
So we will unfold as we give birth.
Right.
Okay. So this is her. So as we unfold...
Liam, please keep your filter engaged. I thought you were coming around to get a closer look for a second with the camera.
So as we unfold, the vagina will open. And then she'll unfold and unfold. And that is 10 centimetres, which is what they say.
So it should be once the baby comes out.
It's fully dilated. So this is how our
whole
vagina
human comes out of that.
Yeah, will expand and will unfold and naturally come. So she hasn't, she's not one piece of skin. So it's a bit like, so the vagina will get very large.
Right.
And then, once baby's born, baby the vagina will fold back again and she'll be beautiful.
Not from what I've heard.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
But also, you see, it's like, okay, so like the penis will grow large and then come small again. The vagina will grow large and then come small again.
But it's the unfolding bit that's confusing.
But the unfolding bit, so as baby will come, so as the vagina will open, so the cervix then opens, so then we have this beautiful 10 centimetres, so then baby will come through. But then, you know, it's a bit like, see it like this, so if this is your cervix, these are those muscles that I was saying that go around. So as they get pulled up to the top, and they expand, so does your cervix, so it expands and expands and expands and expands.
Right.
So, and then when baby's born, your uterus will come back down to shape.
Right.
Back down to those 7 centimetres. So, which is why after you've had baby, you will still have some surge wave contraction, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
You will still have those feelings because the uterus were retracting again.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use, but you know, a lot of people don't know that. Think, well, I've given birth. Am I going to labour again?
Yeah.
It's not as long, but you are having that because the uterus, the muscles have to come back down to size, so you can carry on using your breathing techniques and things like that.
Do you recommend exercise then for those who are pregnant? Does that help with?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, exercise is really, you know, when it gets to a certain, you know, make sure you take advice if you're feeling uncomfortable, but keeping so the pelvis isn't one rigid bone, it moves. And so having more movement with that is better. But birthing positions as well, when you're going into the squat, you're not doing a squat like you are in a gym, because it's a different type of squat. Whereas when you're in labour, it's more up, forwards and open, so that you've got your tailbone, which is coming that way, rather than that way. Because if you have your tailbone that way, you're stopping baby from coming down.
Right.
It's a bit like, you know, if you need to go to the loo whilst you're in it, keep going, keep weeing, because otherwise if your bladder's full, that will obstruct baby from coming down as well. It's a bit like being on one of those bouncy castles, you know, with these obstacles. It's coming out. So we want to go to the toilet and then, But don't you think she's beautiful?
She's very beautiful, yes.
Yeah. She folds really nicely. So that is my little velvet vagina.
The velvet vagina.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be saying that on my podcast. Do you know what? I've got Kelly as well, is going to be coming on soon as well from Nixie.
Yeah.
And obviously we both know Kelly, so going from this today, Liam, you are in for a treat in the next fortnight, believe me. You need to brace yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you think that was intense,
amazing.
Wait until we start talking about that and good old incontinence and period pants.
Oh my
and
God,
everything.
her pants are amazing.
They are amazing.
They are so
amazing.
incredible.
Shout out to Kelly from Nixie Body.
Yeah, they are so comfortable. I like the scallop ones best.
Snap. Yeah.
She might bring you a sample, Lou.
Engaged. Filter remains engaged till the camera is no longer live. Brilliant. Right, Emma, what is your go-to song? If there's a piece of music that you can listen to, or a song, whether it's on a day that you might be feeling in a bit of a funk, or just something that can instantly, as soon as you hear it, can just put you into that kind of good mood, what would be one of your go-to songs?
I really like the Dua Lipa one and Elton John.
Right, okay.
Only because that was my 50th birthday. My friend and I were very drunk and we were dancing over a bridge. So it has a lot of happy memories. Oh, golly gosh.
Just as you said that as well, there's a beautiful rainbow just
Is
up
there?
right behind you.
Hey, it's a sign. See? Crystals, energy.
Yeah, twins. Twinning.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, rainbow.
Might have to call earlier than I thought. Do you know what? Anything from the 80s.
Really?
I am a real 80s. I just love it. in the gym, if they play 80s, I'm all for that.
Would that be your go-to sort of treadmill list?
Yeah. Shaka Khan.
Okay.
Love that.
I feel for you. That's a great one to pop in there.
You.
Yeah.
And I love Tina Turner. Obviously, I love Jackie. I was saying to someone the other day, and I was saying about Jackie, and they go, Jackie, well, you know, could it be I'm falling in love? And you know, then they started singing. It was lovely. Yeah, anything from the 80s, I'm very. But I think, again, like what I said before, with happiness, that gives me instant happiness because of how happy I was then, and the really good memories from those days.
Takes you back to
and
it's the nostalgia that it can bring.
And also, you know all the words. Isn't it weird? You know all the words. It's a bit like even with the hypnobirthing and listening to the audios and repetitive words you easily remember. Whereas I've never sat down and learnt all the words of an 80s song. But if it comes on and I'm in the car, I know all the words.
Subliminal.
So although it's not suggesting that you know all of the, you know, the affirmations and the audios in order to keep you calm and everything else, but like that anchoring, when you hear certain things, you'll go with it because you've learnt it, and that's where, you know, you learn everything in your subconscious, in the depths.
What would you say to anybody who is listening or watching that is either currently pregnant or, I mean, I would guarantee that anybody who is in that state at the moment, that having listened to you, that you have instantly probably helped to put their mind at ease in some way, shape or form anyway. But for someone who is going to be a new parent and they might be feeling a little bit anxious, what would be your sort of parting words of wisdom for them?
I would think, have a little think about what are you anxious about? What is it? Is it a fear? Is it because it's the unknown? And first time round, and then have a look at lots and lots of people think, right, well, I'm pregnant, I'm going to book onto NCT and then I'm going to go and do. But is that right? Is that right for you? Some people will go onto certain groups because they want to make friends. But is that going to give you the education that you want? So it's being strong with yourself and thinking, what is going to give me the most confidence and give me the best outcome, rather than following what everybody else does. I mean, personally, I have found that people who have gone to NCT haven't. In the old days, you would go to that and then you would probably stay friends with some, and then the children will grow up together and everything else. But now I'm finding that people will go to those classes, but then when baby's born, they move in different circles. So you might prefer to go swimming, whereas the other one wants to go to massage and stuff like that. So it's the connections that you make once you have your baby. So I would, if you're anxious about it, I would worry less about are you going to make friends, and focus more about what's going to be right for you in educating your body, because no one knows your body like you do. And no one will be in that room when you give birth other than you and who you choose to be there. So it's taking that ownership and being strong with yourself, nurturing your mind and your body, and your baby as well, and everything will be fine. It just will be lovely.
And as you just said that, you've got to look at the rainbow behind you, because it's almost like it's so apt that it's come up.
Oh my gosh!
And just it keeps on getting struck. Can you see it? It keeps on getting it. Well, I don't know if it's how the sun is or if there's a cloud, but it keeps on just as you've been talking about that. It's just
It's
quite
sign.
Ethereal. There we go.
I'll help you. Don't worry. I'm not going to say don't worry because that's negative. I'm going to say I will help you.
Well, what we're going to do as well, as always, is make sure that we've got links to your website, because your website is, do you want to know?
Ellivasehypnobirthing.co.uk.
Perfect. Like I said, we'll have a link to that. We'll put some links as well to Juno and the other publications that you've got you've been published in. So if people want to have a little read and go and order themselves a copy. Have you written a book?
No, but I I want to. I thought
I
about
think you should.
it. Yeah, I thought about it
100%.
last year, and I messaged my sister, and I said, I'm going to write a book, and she said, yes, I think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, I think you should, and I will definitely be buying it
Thank you.
before conception.
I better get writing. So if that rainbow has anything to do with it, it'll be like 9 months' time.
Yes,
where are we?
100%. But Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure. In fact, before I do my usual, Liam, have you got any questions?
I haven't, no.
We covered pretty much everything and then some. You've learned a lot and then some along the way. Yeah. So perfect. Emma, it's been, like I said, a joy to have you here today.
You.
It really has. Thank you for joining us. And 100%, not even going to say if, when my time comes and it is, I'm preparing for motherhood. I actually can't wait to get you involved. I think that just in terms of, even Liam said when you're here, you've just got this calming presence.
Oh, thank you.
And yeah, just to sort of, I think you would help to put anybody's mind at ease. So it's been an absolute joy. Really appreciate you joining us here at the Nattabox podcast. And for yourselves, as always, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to do the usual. You can click like, follow or subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on any of the future episodes. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us on the Nattabox podcast, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.